Welcome to the Empowered and In Control podcast, the podcast that helps people who have been impacted by domestic abuse to heal and to regain a sense of power and control after an abusive relationship. I'm your host, Oriana, your favorite domestic violence expert, speaker, and the owner of To Rise Advocacy and Consulting. In the world of domestic violence advocacy, we often use the power and control wheel as a tool to illustrate the abusive behaviors that one partner uses to gain and maintain power and control over the other partner in a relationship. It happens over time, and it's various forms of abuse. Let's take a look at the power and control wheel to get a better sense of what those abusive behaviors look like and how to identify them. Keep in mind that the power and control wheel uses the pronouns her and she regarding the victim and he regarding the abuser, because domestic abuse is still largely a gender-based issue, with over 70% of victims being female. Now let's take a look at the wheel. Using intimidation is at the upper right-hand side. Now that could look like making her afraid by using looks, actions, or gestures, smashing things, destroying her property, abusing pets, or displaying weapons. The next section is using emotional abuse. This could be making her feel bad about herself, putting her down or calling her names, making her think she's crazy, playing mind games, humiliating her, or making her feel guilty. The next section is using isolation, which looks like controlling what she does, who she sees and talks to, where she goes, and limiting her outside involvement. It also includes using jealousy to justify actions. Minimizing, denying, and blaming is typically the section that I associate with mind games, because in this form, the abuser is literally minimizing the abuse as if it wasn't that bad. They're denying that the abuse ever happened, which can make you feel crazy, or they're blaming you for the abuse by saying, you know how to push my buttons. Using children is one of the most common forms of abuse, and that can take a lot of different forms. That could be using the children to relay messages or to spy on her, using the children as far as visitation to be able to harass her, threatening to take the children away, or making her feel guilty about her parenting. The next section would be using male privilege, so treating her like a servant, making all the big decisions, acting like the master of the castle, and being the one to define men and women's roles. Using economic abuse could take a lot of forms as well. That could be preventing her from getting or keeping a job, making her ask for money, giving her an allowance, taking her money, not letting her know about or have access to family income. Using coercion and threats, making and or carrying out threats to do something to hurt her, threatening to leave her or to commit suicide, making her drop charges, or making her do illegal things. Those are all examples of coercion and threats. Another threat would be to threaten to put her out. I've heard a lot of survivors talk about how their partner would tell them to get out of the house and that it wasn't their house. So it was a regular occurrence that they would threaten to kick them out. Now that we've looked at the power and control wheel, I just want to say it does a really good job of showing in black and white what some of those abusive behaviors look like and how it creates a pattern, and that it's various forms of abuse. It's never just one thing. So it does a really good job of being able to illustrate that for survivors so that they can look at it and identify the behaviors that they are experiencing in their own relationships. Hey, the Empowered and In Control Wheel and its guide is a hopeful tool that I developed for people who are impacted by domestic abuse. It's a healing-centered tool that creates a pattern of positive behaviors that people can use to regain power and control after an abusive relationship. Click the link in the description to get your copy for yourself or for someone that you know who is struggling to move forward after the trauma of an abusive relationship. You can be empowered and in control again. Thank you so much for watching the Empowered and in Control podcast. Hey, have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When people recommended it to me, I had no idea where to start. I didn't know anything about podcasting. And then I saw the ads for the My Seven Figure podcast. Now, seven figures did pique my interest, but I had no idea how people were making money podcasting. What really got me was the idea of being able to help so many more people through a podcast. So I signed up for the course and the community. It is so thorough, let me tell you. From branding to making sure that it's legally protected to monetizing, they left no guesswork and no excuses. So click the link in the description to sign up for My Seven Figure Podcast course and invest in your future. There are podcasts about everything, but there are certain things that people only want to hear from you. So get started today. People need to hear your voice. Now let's take a look at the Empowered and in Control wheel. Now, what I have not seen in my career working in this field is the positive inversion of the power and control wheel. So if it shows a pattern of abusive behaviors that have created a pattern and taken your power and control away, what is the pattern of positive behaviors that a survivor can take to regain that sense of power and control back? So I developed the Empowered and in Control wheel. So let's take a look at that wheel as well. So instead of using intimidation, the Empowered and in Control wheel has assertive affirmations. And this can look like knowing your worth and assertively rejecting disrespectful behavior. Using emotional abuse is replaced by physically and emotionally healthy. If you're a giver, then you've probably given more to other people than you've taken care of yourself. We have a tendency to neglect our own needs, our own mental and physical health. So this could look like getting more exercise and eating right. It could look like going to seek the help from a professional to heal from the traumas of the relationship that we were in. Belonging and support replaces using isolation. Fostering healthy relationships with positive people who pour into your growth is so important. Surround yourself with people who want to see you win. Minimizing, denying, and blaming is replaced with acknowledging, loving, and blameless. This looks like not only accepting the events that happen without being defined by them, but allowing for self-grace. When you're more aware of what domestic abuse looks like and the tactics that people have used against you, then you can see yourself as being blameless as far as taking ownership of other people's decisions and actions. In the Empowered and in Control wheel, we are protecting children. Educating yourself about the effects of trauma on children, particularly the Adverse Childhood Experiences study, is so very important. Prolonged exposure to abuse has impacts on children that go well into their adulthood. It affects their life potential, but also their life expectancy. Now we're going to jump over to economic empowerment. Now this goes beyond financial literacy. It's very important to be knowledgeable about credit, budgeting, saving, and investing, but we also have to be creative, especially as women, with creating the financial freedom and generational wealth to be able to take care of our families and be able to combat financial abuse while also dealing with a gender pay gap. Now, the next section that we're going to look at is self-actualization. And we're looking at that compared to using male privilege. So instead of your partner being the one to define what your role is and treating you like a servant, self-actualization is where you get to a point where you have embraced all parts of you as worthy, valuable, and purpose-filled. This means that you know who you are, who you want to be, what you want your life to look like, and how to make it happen. Even if you never have to use the techniques, is something that's so important and it's so empowering to be able to know how to do that. The last section of the power and control wheel is using coercion and threats. But on the empowered and in control wheel, we've got self-defense and boundaries. I'm going to start with boundaries. A lot of times we have a hard time setting boundaries, knowing what boundaries to set, and even what consequences to put in place if people test or cross those boundaries. So that's something important to learn to be able to do. And then as far as self-defense, learning and practicing self-defense techniques is so empowering. Look, whether you have to use the techniques or not, just knowing how to handle yourself and knowing what to do should something come up is a very empowering feeling. Think about it like this. In school, we have different drills, tornado drills, earthquake drills, fire drills. All those things are scary events. But the reason that we drill them is so that if it actually happens, not only do you know what to do, you're a little bit more calm because you have a plan. You've practiced. You know what to do. It's the same concept here. Learning and practicing self-defense prepares you for if you need it. And if you don't, fantastic. Now, I hope the comparison between the power and control wheel and the empowered and in control wheel was helpful. If you would like more information on how to use the empowered and in control wheel, because I gave only an example or two from each section, you can log on to my website at www.toriseac, that's TORISEAC.com, and check out the shop where you can download a copy of the Empowered and in Control e-booklet. It will give you a good description of what the Empowered and in Control wheel is and how it can be used, not only for survivors, but also by loved ones and also by victim service providers who want to be a greater support, more effective support system for survivors. Okay, so how you feeling? Were there things on the power and control wheel that you experienced in previous relationships that you didn't realize were abusive behaviors? Were there things on the empowered and in control wheel that you either already do or you're looking forward to start doing? Or are there things that you already do that make you feel empowered and in control that you can share with us so that other people can potentially utilize those same tools and techniques in their healing journey? Think about it. Sometimes your experience and your story can be someone else's survival guide, right? So let me know in the comments whether or not this was helpful and what things make you feel empowered and in control. Let's keep that conversation going so that other people can get tips for how to move forward in a healthy way. Thank you so much for watching the Empowered and in Control podcast. Again, I am your host, Oriana, your favorite domestic violence expert, speaker, and owner of To Rise Advocacy and Consulting. And I will see you next week. Bye.